Okay, we'll start with this. Well, Bob Arum had this to say. He says,
I won't lose money on Loma Lopez because Lopez thinks he's worth more. We explained to them we have no gate revenue, no closed circuit revenue. I mean, we're willing to pay him a big price, but again, I'm not gonna lose millions of dollars on an event because he thinks he's worth more.
The Athletic's Mike Kopinger reported Thursday that Arum's Top Rank Inc. has offered Lopez roughly a $1.2 million purse for facing Lomachenko in a lightweight title unification fight. Lopez's purse, if he accepted that offer, would be worth slightly more than a third of what Lomachenko would be guaranteed for their 12-round, 135-pound title fight. Everybody's trying to do the right thing, McWhorter told ESPN.com, but there doesn't seem to be enough money for everybody. We were willing to take a haircut from what was expected before, but not one of the magnitude presented to us. The impasse they've reached could lead Lopez to pursue an opponent other than Lomachenko for his next bout. I think, more likely, we would take another fight at 135 and revisit the Lomachenko fight, McWhorter said. To me, a lot of this has to do with ESPN. I mean, if they want the fight, I think they should find a way to make it work for Top Rank. Bob's right. Top Rank shouldn't have to lose money on this, but neither should Teofimo. The big winner here should be ESPN. I feel it should be incumbent on them to find a way to make this happen. The 88-year-old promoter told BoxingScene.com last week that it remained possible ESPN would televise Lomachenko versus Lopez live on the network. Arum added that ESPN Pay-Per-View and ESPN Plus, the network's $5 per month streaming service, were also optional platforms for that fight. Lomachenko, 32, and Lopez, 23, were supposed to meet May 30th at Madison Square Garden in New York. Contracts for that bout weren't finalized before the COVID-19 pandemic brought boxing to a standstill for nearly 3 months in the middle of March. We have an idea of what Top Rank was willing to give Teofimo Lopez, but what we don't know is what Teofimo wanted. You understand? Obviously, what Top Rank had to offer him wasn't enough for him. But what would have been enough?
How much?
That's what we don't know.
What kind of number was he looking for?
Because depending on what that number is, that'll tell you who's being reasonable and who's being unreasonable. There's a global pandemic out there, folks, and a lot of people don't want to accept that. A lot of people don't want to understand that this affects everyone and everything.
You're not the only one making sacrifices.
Got a lot of boxing fans out there, a lot of content creators, a lot of YouTubers saying that Bob should just give in to whatever Teofimo wants, and that's very easy for them to say because they're not the ones running the risk of losing millions upon millions of dollars.
It's not your fucking money.
I mean, most of these guys that you see chiming into this conversation, saying what they're saying, that Bob should simply acquiesce to whatever Teofimo wants, well, they're not the ones running any financial risks, now are they? And these guys are not accustomed to handling vast sums of money.
These guys think money grows on trees.
Or that you should risk losing a rather large sum of money just because you can afford to risk it, just because you can afford to lose it. Last I checked, neither Bob Arum, Top Rank, or any promotional company is in the business of losing money. You don't put up vast sums of money so that you can lose it. You put it up so that you can get that much more back. And here today,
under these circumstances,
we don't know that Teofimo Lopez is good for it. We don't. I'm going to tell you something. This is roughly 2 times the amount of money that Teofimo Lopez was paid to fight Richard Comey in his last fight. He was paid approximately $500,000 for the Richard Comey fight. And this price is 2 times as much as that price was. But that's not enough for Teofimo.
I don't know what the hell you want these guys to do.
Let me tell you something. It ain't Top Rank's fault that there's no gate revenue available right now. It ain't Top Rank's fault that there's a global pandemic going on that severely hinders everyone's ability to make money in boxing. There's no live gate revenue. There's no crowds. There's no ticket sales. What do you want them to do? It seems to me that Top Rank is bearing the burden, the full financial burden of staging this event.
It's their gamble.
Without very much assistance from ESPN, their partner network. It seems that what McWhorter is suggesting is that if the people at ESPN are really invested in this fight and they want to see it happen, they need to work something out. Maybe they throw Teofimo $1 or $2 million off the top to get that kid in the ring. But maybe the people at ESPN are looking at Teofimo's metrics, they're looking at his numbers, and they're saying, this kid's not worth it. So we're not going to put that kind of money up just because he's asking for it. This kid's last purse wasn't even $1 million. It was $500,000. So where's he come off with all these fucking demands?
Might be what they're telling themselves.
Oh, you can have your sticking points. Anybody can have their own set of sticking points, but they have to be based on something. They have to be based on something. They have to be based on your track record, your metrics, what kind of money you've generated in the past. You've got to show them that you're good for the scratch. And if you ain't showed them that, then they're not just going to put the money up because you're asking for it.
Least of all with no fucking gate revenue.
During a pandemic, the bottom line is, if you want to get to the other side of this fight, to where you're the guy that's commanding big purses and you're the guy getting the lion's share of the pot, in this situation, if that's what you want, then you've got to make sacrifices.
Otherwise, you'll miss your shot at the big time.
You might. I mean, what if Teofimo Lopez ends up fighting somebody else, anybody else? Vasyl Lomachenko, he ends up fighting somebody else, anybody else. And let's say that things go sideways for Vasyl Lomachenko. Let's say the unthinkable happens and Vasyl Lomachenko loses his very next fight. You will have effectively missed that opportunity to capitalize on.
You let somebody else get to him.
You let somebody else steal what was your thunder, steal what could have been your moment.
This is boxing, folks.
The theater of the unexpected, where anything, most everything, can happen. Somebody comes along and beats this guy, well, there goes your fucking super fight, there goes your Moby Dick, there goes 2 years of call-outs down the fucking drain. You strike while the iron is hot because you don't know if you'll get that same chance. Nothing in life is guaranteed, and tomorrow simply isn't promised. You know, I've heard a lot of what people have had to say in regards to this subject. These guys who don't seem to understand why these fights even get staged in a fight fucking place. I mean, why do you think that promoters promote fighters? And why do you think that they stage these events at all? What do you think the goal is? Why do you think they're doing it? How do you think money gets made in the sport of boxing? Because rest assured, what all these guys got in common, the managers, the promoters, the fighters and the networks, the only thing they've got in common is that they're all trying to make money.
Every single one of them.
So they'll put their money up to see a fight get made. They'll put their money up because they figure if we invest in this fight, we'll get that much more money back. We'll get a return.
That's the basic idea in staging these fights.
But when one of the aforementioned parties overstates their role, overstates their value, they've got demands. And those demands make staging this fight, staging this event, an even bigger risk, an even bigger gamble.
Are they worth it?
Situation where you stand a good chance of losing millions upon millions of dollars.
Because of what this guy's asking for.
This guy who you don't know can bring you your money back and then some, allowing you to turn over a profit from even staging this fucking thing.
And you don't know if this guy's good for it.
You don't know that this Lopez kid can bring you your money back if you pay him in excess of $1.2 million. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You guys are thinking, well, what about Vasyl Lomachenko and the amount of money that he stands to make from this thing? Can't he take a pay cut to ensure that the fight happens? Well, reportedly, that's what he was going to do.
He was going to take a pay cut.
That much we know. But what we don't know is what kind of number Teofimo Lopez was looking for.
I mean, how big a cut are we asking Vasyl Lomachenko to take? He's the main attraction.
I've seen a lot of guys out there spend a good amount of time trying to deny who the A-side fighter here is. But make no mistake, it was Teofimo Lopez who called out Vasyl Lomachenko because Vasyl Lomachenko's name was the one ringing bells. Vasyl Lomachenko's name was the one getting attention. Vasyl Lomachenko's attractions were putting asses in the seats. Hence him getting the lion's share of the pot. Whether you want to accept it or not, there's an A side and there's a B side.
You need to know your role or slow your roll.
You seem to have a lot of fucking demands for a guy who only made $500,000 in his last fight. Mr. Big in the Britches, Mr. $1 million ain't enough for me. The next generation of fighters, Teofimo Lopez among them, has a lot of potential. The potential to hone his skills and become one of the pound-for-pound elite fighters in the sport. The potential to become a draw, to become a marquee fighter, a marquee attraction. A lot of these fighters, your Ryan Garcia, your Teofimo Lopez, they have the potential to become those kinds of fighters in the sport of boxing. But that is potential, ladies and gentlemen. That is potential, folks. That's not where they are right now. So when I see these situations arise, I can't help but think that these guys are counting their chickens before they're hatched. The reality of it is, you can't deposit potential in the bank. Potential, in and of itself, isn't going to keep the lights on. It's not going to pay the bills. And for all the potential that a Teofimo Lopez has, the people over there at ESPN and the people over there at Top Rank don't know with any certainty that Teofimo's good for the scratch, that he's good for the cash. A lot of people are jumping to the conclusion that $1.2 million is simply not enough for Teofimo Lopez to take on this kind of a fighter. And yet, Jorge Linares, a 3-division champion, he made a cool $1 million off of fighting Vasyl Lomachenko. And Jorge was a more accomplished guy than Teofimo is here today. Jorge was a 3-division champion.
Gave him $1 million.
Something very similar applies to Jose Pedraza. Jose Pedraza, he got a cool $1 million for fighting Vasyl Lomachenko. He's a 2-division champion. Champion at 130 and a champion at 135. Those two guys, between them, got $1 million apiece. And neither Jorge Linares or Jose Pedraza spent as much time calling Vasyl Lomachenko out as Teofimo Lopez did. I mean, you claim that this is the fight you want. You claim that you can beat this guy and you can smack him around. You can do this and that. When the fight's in front of you, you don't want to fight this guy for the same money that those guys took. But those two guys were a lot more accomplished than you are. So what's the problem? You remember a few months back when Teofimo Lopez was saying that Vasyl Lomachenko wants a tune-up fight.
Remember that?
And that Teofimo himself, he doesn't want a tune-up fight. Lomachenko is his tune-up fight. You remember that? You remember that bravado? But when it came time to put up or shut up, it's Teofimo Lopez that's walking away from the fight. It's Teofimo Lopez who's opting to fight someone else. I tried to be objective. I tried to be fair. I tried to look at both sides of this thing, but when I look at both sides of it, they're offering you $1.2 million to have this fight. And these are extenuating circumstances. It's not an ideal situation for anybody. It's not ideal for Top Rank. It's not ideal for ESPN or Vasyl Lomachenko. It's not ideal for you. It's not ideal for anybody. Understand? But they managed to scrounge up enough cash to where, at minimum, you'll make the same price that Jorge Linares did, the same price that Jose Pedraza did. And that's not enough for you.
Okay. So do you want this fight, or do you not want this fight?
You can have a lot of people saying a lot of things. You can have members of your team convincing you that you're worth more money than you actually are. You can have fight fans via YouTube, content creators, content authors, uploading content that suggests that $1.2 million is not enough for you. You can have any variety of sympathizers. But unless those sympathizers show up in your market value, your marquee value, your metrics, your numbers, till that happens, there is no indication that you're good for the money that you are asking them to put up for you. Because it's their money, after all. You're not paying yourself. It's not coming out of your own pocket. It's coming out of theirs. I happen to think that ESPN could, hypothetically, remedy the situation. I happen to think that ESPN's got to have at least $1 or $2 million lying around that they could throw Teofimo Lopez. But the question is, why would they?
This ain't Christmas.
Do you guys out there that sympathize with Teofimo Lopez and support him and demand that Bob Arum give him every red cent that he's asking for, do you guys out there empty out your bank accounts regularly and give the money away for the sake of giving the money away? Because I'll tell you something, even if you do, that's not what Top Rank is in the business of doing, and that's not what ESPN is in the business of doing. They're in the business of hosting boxing matches and investing their dollars into those boxing matches in the hope that the boxing matches themselves will give them not just their money back, but then some. Try and understand. I'm just as aware as all of you out there are that Bob Arum is a cheapskate. He's a penny pincher. I can think of 1 or 2 or even 3 scenarios very recently where a little bit more generosity from Bob would have got things done. But in this situation, you are talking about a multi-million-dollar fight. What you're asking this guy to do is take a multi-million-dollar risk in a situation
Where there's no live gate revenue.
and there is no closed circuit revenue. They were talking about putting this thing on regular ESPN or ESPN Plus. It's basically saying that this thing might not have even been a pay-per-view. You wouldn't have even had that additional revenue stream
Of a pay-per-view upside.
So you got no audience, so you ain't got no live gate. You don't have that. The fight itself might not have even been a pay-per-view, so you can't rely on the pay-per-view's upside to flip the bill. According to Bob Arum, that wasn't even his call. That decision was made by ESPN. That was their decision to make. Here you have a fighter who's what? 15-0. He just won his first world title. The kid fought in his last fight for $500,000, and he's telling you, you've got to give me a multi-million-dollar payday, or I'm not going to fight. And you're telling me that Teofimo Lopez is being reasonable?
No, I don't really think he is.
I understand that in Teofimo's mind and his team's, this was set to be his coming out party, you know? His ascent into the next stratosphere. But as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's not going to live up to expectations, if it lives up to anything at all. But he's not the only one affected by these circumstances. Top Rank, ESPN, Vasyl Lomachenko, and Teofimo Lopez are also affected by these circumstances.
And pretty much everybody in the sport of boxing.
So I'll level with you. I'll tell you what. If the basic idea here is to wait to have this fight until live audiences return to boxing, if that's what you guys plan on doing, oh, you can do that. But what you can't do is accuse Vasyl Lomachenko of ducking you the way you've been accusing him of ducking you this whole time leading up to this point. That's what you can't do, because you're the one holding up this fight, not that guy. And you're holding up this fight because you won't fight Vasyl Lomachenko for the same money that Jorge and Jose took to fight him. You're the one being a prima donna. Here, you have your chance to take this guy out. Here, you have your chance to back up all the talk we've been listening to for the last year and a half, maybe 2 years now. Here's your chance, and you don't want it right now. I don't know that Teofimo is going to buckle down and just accept the money that's on the table for him. It seems likelier to me that they'll decide to wait, that they might even postpone this fight till 2021. I can see that happening, I can. And if it does happen that way, I don't want to hear about how Teofimo Lopez was fucking lowballed. Bullshit, he was lowballed. His last price was $500,000. They offered you the same kind of money they gave Jose and the same kind of money they gave Jorge. And the difference between you and those guys is they took the fight and you didn't. They wanted the fight, and you didn't.